What if the song lyrics you swear you know are wrong? What if that movie poster you know that you saw at work in the theater as a teenager just never existed? What if a global icon you vividly remember dying decades ago somehow lived on to be a president? And that little dip in your own personal timeline? What if, my friends, it is not a faulty memory, but a reality hangover? Did the universe just hit save as, and can you overwrite what's rendered to tilt your own timeline, even 1 degree off course, and into an entirely new perspective? Let's jump.
In the future, Lord, we stand so bright. Mystery calls in the dark of night. Curiosity dances in our eyes. Joyful beacons under endless skies.
Imagine this. You're pushing your cart through the grocery store, the fluorescent lights buzzing low thrum, almost a vibration through your bones. Today, the familiar scent of fresh produce is replaced by something slightly too sweet. All the shelves are stocked, but the labels seem kind of off, and the packaging is just a little too bright as you push your cart down an aisle that's descending into the uncanny valley. You pause a moment and notice the song on the overhead speakers, tinny, thin, but definitely your song, the one you know by heart, every lyric, every riff. But the chorus, it's now just wrong. The melody's grating. The singer's voice is just rougher, higher, different. You grab your phone and try to Shazam, but the app just spins, and then the song ends. It's so weird. Later, when you get home, you pull up your favorite playlist, and the version you know is nowhere, completely gone, except for some lyrics like the ones you remember, typed in by a few people on some old message board posted years ago. Now, only this new altered track exists, and it's a ghost of what it was before. Did CERN just find another God particle in the dairy section? This feeling goes way beyond simply misremembering details. It's that unsettling sense that the world feels thinner. Like you're suddenly living a near perfect replica of your life, but with tiny essential details out of place. The weirdest part is when you feel like you're not wrong, but the world might be, and your memory is the last piece of evidence from a reality that no longer exists, an echo from a place only a few other people seem to know. This shared glitch has a name, the Mandela Effect. Paranormal researcher Fiona Broome coined the term back in 2009 after discovering that thousands of people, complete strangers, shared her vivid, specific, and totally false memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison back in the 1980s. They remembered the news clips, they remembered the global mourning, except it never happened. He was released, became president, and lived for decades longer. And once you start looking, these glitches are everywhere. It's the children's book series that you know as the Berenstain Bears. But you know it was spelled with an E, now stubbornly existing as Berenstain with an A. It's the cornucopia we were all sure was part of the Fruit of the Loom logo that apparently is something we all made up. Really? We all just imagined a random weird kind of basket of all things on underwear. And this right here is the paradox that short circuits our brains. We build our entire identity and everything that we assign any meaning on the bedrock of our memory. It's our personal history, the internal compass that tells us who we are, what we've done, and what's real. But what happens when that bedrock shifts? What do you do when the external world of the internet, history books, All the objective evidence tells you that your crystal clear recollection is completely, demonstrably wrong. Who do you trust? Your own mind, the very thing defining your existence, or the entire world insisting that you're mistaken? So, what if your memory isn't a static recording, like a file saved on a hard drive? What if it's more like a live stream, pulling data from a timeline you might have just disconnected from? Is reality a single concrete movie that plays once? Or is it more like a collaborative Google Doc where edits can happen in real time and you're just noticing the version history in the margins? Are these glitches really mistakes, or could they be notifications, a ping from a parallel reality that's bumping up against our own? And here's the real question. What if you are the tuner? What if that glitch wasn't a mistake, but your brain accidentally picking up on a different frequency, different station, playing a slightly different version of the song of reality? It's like finding out you're living in a deleted scene, realizing your whole life might be a fan fiction rework of the real thing, and you're the only one holding on to the original script. So, as I'm sure you know, you are not the first to feel this. This profound sense of a shifting reality isn't new. Long before we had chat rooms to debate movie quotes, cultures across the world recognized that time can be fluid and reality is negotiable. They built entire worldviews around it, creating sophisticated documents for a universe that was alive, layered, and fundamentally editable. Let's start big, like cosmically big. In Hindu cosmology, the time you experience this linear, one foot in front of the other march from birth to death is just a tiny fragment of a much grander repeating pattern. Their concept of time isn't a straight line. It's an immense cyclical ocean of cosmic ages, or yugas. Our entire universe, everything we know and see, is described in texts like the Puranas as just one breath of the creator god, Brahma. He exhales, and a universe blooms into existence, lives through vast cycles of creation and decay, and then he inhales, dissolving it all back into potential, only to begin again. We are talking about cycles that last for billions of years, repeating endlessly. Imagine the universe not as a single movie, but as an infinite box set, with each cosmic cycle being a new season. So that song lyric you swear is wrong, that historical event that you remember differently, in this framework, it's not a bug in your memory. It's a feature of the cosmos, an echo of a prior cycle. You're not misremembering, but you're remembering a different pilot of the universe, a previous universal cycle bleeding through into this one. Or maybe, just maybe, a download from a future one. Your memory isn't faulty. It could be picking up a broadcast from a timeline that's already been archived. Now, let's pull this from the cosmic scale down to a personal, modern level. You've probably heard of Philip K. Dick, the legendary sci-fi author behind stories that became Blade Runner and Minority Report. In February and March of 1974, something happened to him that honestly shattered his reality. After a dental surgery, he was visited by a delivery person wearing a fish symbol necklace. He asked about it, and in that moment, a beam of pink light shot into his forehead, triggering events he would spend the rest of his life trying to understand. He began experiencing what he called anamnesis, a loss of forgetting. Suddenly, he believed he was living simultaneously in two timelines: his current life in 1970s California and another as a persecuted Christian named Thomas in ancient Rome. For him, the Roman Empire had never actually ended, but still existed alongside our own, cloaking itself in a new form, and our modern world was a holographic projection laid over it. He documented this obsessively in his 8,000-page journal, The Exegesis, convinced he was receiving information from a vast, active, living intelligence system, or what he called Valis. It wasn't a plot for a novel, it was his lived experience. For him, a single moment of noticing a symbol on a necklace peeled back the wallpaper of reality, revealing an entirely different timeline underneath. And it wasn't fun for him. Like, this wasn't a story to tell at a party. It was a terrifying, deeply personal timeline shift, a lived experience of one reality being overwritten by another, yet experienced simultaneously. He found the seams of consciousness and spent the rest of his life trying to warn us not to let them fray. Flipping between worlds isn't only the domain of sci-fi authors. It's also woven into the fabric of folklore. In Japan, there's a concept called Kamikakushi, which literally means hidden by gods. It's the ancient explanation for when someone vanishes without a trace, famously brought to modern audiences by the Studio Ghibli film Spirited Away. Kamikakushi stories often begin in liminal spaces between one place and another, like a misty forest path, an old tunnel, a bridge at twilight. A person takes just one step too far and end up wandering off the known path and finding themselves in a world of spirits, or kami. But the most important part of these tales for us is the idea of time dilation. That wanderer might spend what feels like an afternoon in the spirit world, only to return to our reality and find that decades or even centuries have passed. Their family's gone, their village is unrecognizable. The clocks of adjacent realities aren't necessarily synchronized with ours. Kamikakushi provides an understanding of a permeable reality. It suggests that other worlds, other timelines, with entirely different rules and temporal flows, exist right alongside our own. And you don't even really decide to travel to them. All you need to do is take one wrong turn at the right energetic moment, reframing a reality glitch as an accidental border crossing. So, from the cosmic loops of the Hindu yugas to Philip K. Dick's personal timeline bleed through to the folklore warnings of the Kamikakushi, the message is the same. Across time and distance, these stories suggest that reality might be editable, multi-layered, and permeable. They show glitches, not as bugs in our perception, but as features of the cosmos, proof that other timelines are always knocking on the door, and sometimes they even let themselves into the lab. These aren't just old ideas. They could be blueprints for a reality far stranger than we imagine. But what happens when you take those operating manuals from the past and start testing? This is where reality gets weirder than any myth or story. The official mainstream science explanation for the Mandela Effect is actually pretty straightforward, and it starts inside your own head. The first thing to understand is that your memory isn't a high-definition video camera. It's more like a painter constantly touching up an old canvas. Every single time you recall a memory, your brain doesn't just play it back, it actively reconstructs it. It pulls fragments from different storage areas and weaves them back together. This process, as groundbreaking work by psychologist Elizabeth Loftus has shown, makes memory incredibly malleable. It can be influenced by suggestion, by new information, even by the act of remembering itself. This leads to a fascinating and common brain function called confabulation. And it sounds sinister, but it's just your brain's way of filling in the blanks. When your memory has a gap, your brain, wanting a coherent story, will invent plausible details to make it whole. And it's not lying per se, it's just doing its job as a meaning-making machine. From this perspective, the Mandela Effect is a case of mass confabulation. Studies, like the Dease-Roediger-McDermott paradigm, show how easily groups of people can be made to remember things that never happened, just through suggestion and association. So you hear someone say, the Berenstain Bears, and your brain fills in the E because it sounds right. And then social media reinforces that shared error until it feels like an undeniable truth. This is a clean, logical explanation for how shared alternate pasts could emerge, and it easily fits a materialist view. But does it feel complete? Does it account for the sheer visceral certainty so many people feel? It expertly explains the mechanism of misremembering, but it doesn't really quell that eerie feeling that the world itself has shifted. To explore that, we have to look past the brain and into the fabric of reality itself. And as we so often like to do, when we look to theoretical physics, things seem to get a little wild. Let's head into territory like season 2 of the TV series Loki. We're talking about the multiverse. It's the idea that our universe isn't the only one. There could be countless others, maybe an infinite number, existing alongside ours in a higher dimensional space. The most famous version of this is the many worlds interpretation, first proposed by physicist Hugh Everett III in the 1950s. Here's the core idea. Every time a quantum event happens where there's more than one possible outcome, like an electron spinning left or right, the universe doesn't pick just one. Instead, it splits. A new universe branches off for every single possibility. You decided to work at McDonald's in 1982? In another universe, a perfect copy of you is fighting for free will at the Time Variance Authority. You're obsessed with jet skis, and not even you know why? A parallel you just happens to be a passionate salesman of personal watercraft. As physicist Max Tegmark describes it, this endless unfolding creates a vast, infinite tapestry of realities, all equally real, where every possible version of history has played out. Connecting back, if there are infinite parallel universes, many of them would be almost identical to ours, with only the tiniest, most seemingly insignificant differences. A universe where the only change is that one letter in the title of a children's book is different. A universe where there's a funny basket called a cornucopia behind the fruit printed on your underwear. Could that off-kilter feeling of a rewritten past be an echo, a quantum bleed-through from one of these adjacent realities? Maybe you didn't misremember. Maybe, through some unknown mechanism, your consciousness just momentarily picked up the signal from the timeline next door, the one where that movie poster for Shazam did have Sinbad on it. Maybe your memory isn't faulty. It just tuned into a reality that you're no longer in. If the idea of parallel worlds isn't strange enough, let's look at one of the newest and most mind-bending discovery in physics, time crystals. Proposed in 2012 by Nobel laureate Frank Wilczek and experimentally confirmed just a few years later, these are an entirely new state of matter. We all know what a regular crystal is, like a diamond or a snowflake. It's an arrangement of atoms that repeats in space. A time crystal is an arrangement of particles that repeats in time. It's a system that even in its lowest energy state, called its ground state, is in constant periodic motion. It has a built-in pulse that repeats over and over and over and over without any external energy being provided, like a quantum clock that never needs winding, powered by the fundamental weirdness of reality. These time crystals exist in a state called a non-equilibrium system, meaning that they defy the universe's usual tendency to settle down and decay into static uniformity. They have an inherent temporal order, a rhythm baked into their very existence. So if the universe allows for structures that have an inherent, stable, repeating pattern in time, operating outside the normal formula of decay, what does that imply about time itself? Maybe it suggests that time could be not just a simple one-way street. It could be a landscape with its own hidden geometry and structure. Could a rewritten past be a manifestation of a larger, more stable, temporal, crystalline structure, recalibrating itself to a different existing timeline? Maybe reality isn't just one timeline, but a complex, even nested system of them. And perhaps what we experience as a glitch is the system shifting its resonance, choosing between different potential pasts that actualize new future realities. It's a wild leap, but time crystals prove that the fundamental rules of time are far stranger and more flexible than we ever could have imagined. They open a door to the possibility that timelines are part of a dynamic, self-organizing structure, and maybe one that includes you. So, from ancient wisdom to time crystals, humans have always wrestled with a fluid, multi-layered reality. But now, let's ask, what if this isn't a mystery to be solved, but a system to be understood and even operated? First, let's establish the playing field. What if the universe isn't a dead random machine that accidentally produced consciousness as a weird fluke? What if the cosmos itself is fundamentally made of consciousness? This idea, known as panpsychism, is seriously debated by philosophers like Philip Goff, as well as within the ideas of analytic idealism of Bernardo Castro. It reframes the universe as a vast, living, conscious mind. Now, let's add a layer. The fundamental numbers that govern our reality, the strength of gravity, the mass of an electron, are so absurdly fine-tuned for life that it's almost comical. As explored in the anthropic principle, if these values were tweaked by even a microscopic amount, stars, planets, and life as we know it could not exist. It's as if the cosmic game was rigged for observers to show up. And here's where you take center stage. Consider the von Neumann-Wigner interpretation of quantum mechanics. It suggests that until a conscious mind looks, reality is just a smear of pure potential. Your awareness, your focus, is the act that collapses the wave of possibilities and forces one outcome to snap into place to become your reality. So if the universe is a conscious canvas, and it's built for observers, and your mind is the brush that paints potential into actuality, then you are not a passive spectator. You're a co-creator. And now let's scale that up. If one mind can choose a reality from a field of potential, what happens when thousands, millions, or billions of us start focusing on the same thing? Could a collective focus, a shared belief, actually begin to steer reality itself? Okay, so the idea of being a cosmic co-creator sounds incredible, but how? How does a squishy 3-pound computer in your skull actually interact with the quantum software of the universe? This is where we enter the wild emerging field of quantum biology. For decades, we assumed the quantum world was too weird and fragile to play a role in the warm, wet chaos of life. But we were wrong. Scientists like Al-Khalili and McFadden have shown that nature uses quantum tricks all the time. A robin navigating the globe using Earth's magnetic field, quantum entanglement inside its eyes. A plant converting sunlight into energy with near perfect efficiency? Could be quantum coherence. Life has had billions of years to master this stuff. So if a common plant can do it, why can't the most complex structure we know of, the human brain? Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff propose that inside our neurons are tiny, hollow cylinders called microtubules. They say these might be the brain's quantum connection. They could be capable of maintaining a coherent state, acting as a biological interface between your consciousness and the quantum field. Think of them as your personal receivers and even transmitters for the frequencies of reality. So your mind is a tuner and your brain has the antenna. But what are you tuning into? What is the medium of reality itself? Let's revisit an idea from earlier, the holographic principle. Theoretical physics, through the work of minds like Leonard Susskind and Juan Maldacena, suggests our 3D reality could be a projection of information stored on a distant 2D surface. And this leads to an even more profound concept, famously summed up by physicist John Wheeler as it from bit. This theory of digital physics proposes that at its most fundamental level, the universe isn't made of matter or energy. It's made of information, bits. Reality is a giant quantum computation. Every particle, every force, Every law of physics is the output of this cosmic program. And if this is true, then reality isn't a solid, unchangeable thing. It's editable code. And the Mandela Effect could be more than shared memory glitches in our brain, but a line of code that got rewritten. From this perspective, a collective focus doesn't just influence perception, it could be literally editing the shared dataset of our perceived past. When enough conscious minds hold a belief or a memory with enough intensity, it could be that collective energy exerts a pressure on the informational field, causing a commit to a new version history. The Mandela Effect is just noticing the update log. Okay, so we have a universe that is fundamentally conscious, a canvas, waiting for the artist. We have you, the observer, whose mind collapses potential into reality. We have the biological hardware, the quantum antennas in your brain, allowing you to interface with this field. And we have the medium itself, an editable fabric of pure information. Just throwing out there that maybe this is dark matter, but that's for another day. When you put all these pieces together, it could lead to a method of operational ability, your personal resonance frequency. Here's the idea. What if every single person has a unique resonance frequency, a vibrational signature that tunes them to a specific reality or timeline? Not physically jumping between dimensions like Covered in Static in a sci-fi movie. It's more subtle. Your internal state, your dominant emotions, your core beliefs, your awareness, acting like a dial. And this dial aligns your consciousness with one specific data stream out of the infinite possibilities available in the multiverse. You're always tuned to the reality that perfectly matches your inner frequency. Now, think about the major turning points in your life, those moments, profound trauma, a life-shattering epiphany, a period of intense joy, or a deep, focused intention of change. Maybe these events do more than just change you psychologically or even neurologically. Maybe they retune you to seamlessly shift into a slightly different, but internally consistent timeline. A timeline where those bigger Mandela effects and smaller personal weirdnesses were always the reality. You didn't shift dimensions, but you changed the station. The old reality didn't vanish. You just stopped being resonant with it. And so it disappeared from your awareness, giving you room to notice all the new things that you now do resonate with. I like to think I'm not a passive passenger on a fixed timeline. Your thoughts, your belief, your emotional state, they're not just private internal experiences. They can be the hardest thing to change, but maybe they're the active controls to tune your reality so you can ripple changes out to others too. The Mandela Effect aren't glitches to be scared of. I like to think they could be proof that we've already shifted. So if you've been doing this unconsciously your whole life, what could you do if you started to tune in on purpose, intentionally aligning your frequency with a new reality, one that you choose? That smells like agency. And that agency changes everything, because this isn't about escaping reality. It's about choosing which version of real you call home. Now, look back and consider the moments you swore happened one way, only to find the world, the records, and everyone else insisting it happened another way. I mean, let's be real. Some of that could be confabulation. But what about that deep feeling of having left a version of yourself behind after a major life decision or an initiation? That you can almost feel the ghost of the other you, a doppelganger living out that other life, the one you didn't choose, or that uncanny electric sense that a new, impossible possibility just snapped into place out of nowhere. Could synchronicities be ripple effects from a timeline you shifted from? Are they pings from a reality you're now consciously or unconsciously choosing to resonate with? That friend you met who felt like family in a good way after 5 minutes? Maybe you've known them for lifetimes in a dozen other timelines. That inexplicable aversion to a food you used to love? Maybe the you in this new timeline never liked it. If your personal frequency is your address in the multiverse, then let's try a little experiment. What new timeline are you attempting to resonate with? What version of reality are you trying to live inside of? It starts with radical intentionality, beyond intellectual overthinking, relaxing into that feeling of the new reality right here, right now, in your body. What does the you who has already achieved that dream, found that self-love, or solved that problem feel like? What is their emotional base state? Is it peace? Is it excitement? Is it profound relief? Don't just visualize, set a timer and embody it, live it, even for just 5 minutes, then an hour, maybe longer, maybe over time, it becomes your default setting. And this is the work. What small shift in belief, thought, or feeling could push you into an entirely new reality stream? We've been doing it by accident our whole lives. Imagine if we did it on purpose. And now, dare to share. Drop your weirdest reality glitches, your personal timeline shifts, or how you tune in to your best timeline in the comments below. Let's traverse the multiverse together, because your story might be the one piece of data that helps someone else make sense of their own journey. Remember this: you are far more powerful, far more strange, and far more connected than you have ever been told. Let's keep exploring this wild unknown together. Please support the channel. Drop us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell on YouTube. Follow, rate, and review on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen. These free little clicks are your signal to the algorithm that you care about the edges of reality and consciousness. Want even more? Visit thefuturelore.com to join our free community and find all of our official links, which are at The Future Lore with no spaces everywhere. Thanks for tuning in, my loves. And remember, embrace the mysterious and stay curious.